Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian and I am the horror show host. And me and my mother just got out of seeing Gretel and Hansel. Now, we're going to talk spoilers after our rating for the film. So we will not spoil anything until this time code, which I hope I remember to put in. If not, oops, and I'll put in the title. So, what'd you think of Gretel and Hansel?
It was good, but I guess I didn't know what to expect. Totally.
It was more of a what's the word? Not fantasy.
Fairy tale?
No, not fairy tale. More like I know the word, I just can't remember. It's more I don't know. I'll think of it later. But it has its own unique style.
Yeah.
It's very a beautiful film.
Yeah, it was a nice film.
It didn't look bad. I like the wood setting. It was very fall-esque, but still colorful, which was nice. What did you think of the performances? There was the girl who played in It, as she played Beverly in It, the remake. She was Gretel in this movie. What did you think of her?
I thought she did a good job.
Yeah, I was surprised with the little boy. I mean, remember the witch? The one with the woman living in the cabin in the woods in the 1800s?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The kids in that movie, like the really little kids, how they were able to say this dialogue that's pretty much Celtic or Dark Age material. So in this movie, he didn't quite get to that level, Hansel. He wasn't as, like, proper English of the 1800s or 1700s.
No.
But he was still pretty good in the film. He wouldn't seem as annoying as I thought he would be, because when it started, I was like, I could see him getting on some people's nerves.
No, I don't think so.
Right, but then when he started growing, I was like, when the character started growing on me, I was like, oh well, that's not too bad.
He's just a little boy.
He's just a little boy. He's naive. He doesn't know everything. Well, you wouldn't know everything if you were an adult, but when you're a kid, you especially know less. He basically had questions about the world and what was going on and how to cut down trees, which was kind of funny. He had his own little quirk. He wanted to cut down a tree. I was happy for him when he actually did cut down that thin tree. What do you think of the witch? Now, first off, you might recognize her from Star Trek. She was the Borg Queen.
Oh.
You can kind of... I know you're not a huge fan of Star Trek, but you can kind of tell, because even under the makeup, she has that face.
I wasn't sure if she was a CGI person. I was going to ask you that after.
Oh, no, she was real.
Her makeup was good, though.
That's how... I think she kind of looks like that. She's older.
She just looked a little CGI.
No, they didn't have a big budget for this movie.
No, but I mean, it just kind of...
The face being elongated and stuff. I think it was the hat, because the hat was kind of long.
Yeah.
And
she did good.
She was really good, and the dialogue wasn't confusing. Was easy to understand. It was more poetic than say like a new movie that's like an action-packed movie coming out. It's more what would you call it?
I don't know if I'd call it action. It was a few times I thought I was ready for a jump scare, and there wasn't one.
That's good though.
So I wasn't sure if that was good or bad.
Oh, no, I wasn't talking about it being an action movie. I was talking about it not being like an action horror movie where the dialogue is very easy to understand. This is still kind of... You have to pay attention to actually get what they're talking about, but it's not too bad.
No.
And the witch, you can barely understand what they're saying, and they're kind of mumbling sometimes.
It got better as it went along.
Yeah, this for me, it was there's only like one or two parts where she was like, "What the hell did she just say?"
Yeah, but I think that was more in the beginning when they first met her.
Yeah, there was one scene a little bit later on where she was trying to give her something for bed, and she said something I could not understand what she said. But I thought she made a good witch from that.
I like where she got the girl was going to start to trust her.
Yeah, and then we're not gonna spoil anything just yet. But it's like the girl is starting to trust her. And you're not sure which direction it's going to go in.
You're not sure if it's going to keep on going good, or if it's going to go bad, or if it's just going to... Or if they're both going to find out stuff, or if they're both not.
Yeah.
It seemed predictable, and then you're like, no, I guess it's not. Or maybe it is, maybe it's not. So it kept you guessing.
The ending was kind of rushed, I felt. Like, I liked how she said, "What a world." Like Wizard of Oz.
I would have looked a little... There could have been some other spots that could have added a little action punches in.
Yeah.
I thought that was the only thing that was... Well, that's the one part I didn't appreciate. There was parts that could have had a jump scare, like, maybe got you.
I think they could have met middle ground where they were like, a jump scare, but there's no music cue.
Yeah.
Like in the 80s, if someone did this and scared somebody, it would just be this. It wouldn't be dung.
Right.
But nowadays they're like dung, and it's like, oh, I hate that. But it's genuinely scary when it's cold, dead silence, and then all of a sudden someone taps you on the shoulder and there's no music because it feels natural.
But that really didn't happen.
No, it didn't. But I wish they kind of met that kind of ground, that middle ground.
I think they could have very easily done it in some spots.
Yeah, maybe like with Gretel cleaning around the house and then her just popping up behind her and scaring her even by accident with no music cue. Mm-hmm. That would be a lot more effective than the boom. What do you think of the guy, the huntsman, in the beginning of the film?
It's such a small part in it.
I know, but I liked his acting.
It was okay.
He was a British black guy.
I was
sorry, African American. Okay.
I just didn't think. I thought that. I don't know what I almost felt like he had no purpose.
He did have purpose.
I know, but I feel like he didn't.
He was a lesson for Gretel to learn.
Right.
And without it, she probably wouldn't have learned half of what she learned.
But I would have liked him to pop up again.
What'd you think of when they were at his house and she took the bath and she had the bruises on her legs? I'm like, what?
I just thought that was just her.
Proving that she's a hard worker and she's not afraid to get down and dirty.
Well, she had, she's been through some battles.
Ah, that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because her mother in the opening.
That was kind of freaky.
Yeah, and she's like,
don't spoil it.
I won't spoil it, but she tells them basically to go dig their own graves, and you're like, wow.
I don't quite understand that either, but I think I might have missed a couple.
I think she was trying to scare him, to get him away, because
they wouldn't leave without it, and she didn't have enough to provide for them.
Yes, I definitely think that was it. I also think she was desperate to get rid of him because she's like, I can't have them get killed or die from a sickness or illness that was in this area. Do you have anything else you want to say before we get into spoilers?
That's all right, I'm good.
Alright, what would you give this movie out of 5? Now, before we give the ratings, I want to just say, from now on, I'm going to start my movie going into a movie going like, I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 5 and see where it goes from there. Middle ground of 5 out of 5 and 0 out of 5. Mm-hmm. So, I started with 2.5 out of 5. What would you give it?
I'd go 3.
I'm probably going to give it a 3 as well.
I almost went 3.5,
but I felt there could have been a little bit more.
There were some spots that could have had a little bit of more suspense.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't preachy either.
No.
It kind of seemed like it was a couple parts, but then they rectify it. And I was like, yes.
You could have used a few more spots that needed just.
And it's just a short movie. It felt like we got in there, watched it, got out, nothing really changed in time.
It flowed nice though.
It did.
5 more minutes would have been okay.
Yeah, it was a decently paced movie. I thought, because some people are like, it's going to be a slow burn. I'm like, oh, great. But it wasn't that bad.
No, if an extra 5 minutes at the end, maybe say another 7 minutes, a couple little scary parts that could have thrown in some places to make you be like, okay, keep you on your seat. But you were always wondering were they going to leave?
Yeah.
Were they going to trust her?
It's interesting.
Yeah. What was she going to reveal?
And one more thing before we get into spoilers.
Somebody could spoil. We're going to spoilers.
No.
Oh.
Well, I announced the spoilers when they were.
I'm sorry, I thought I did.
That wasn't a spoiler.
Okay.
If you want to go watch a movie that is not a slow burn and very beautiful to look at, and is less than an hour and a half, and is a unique take on Gretel and Hansel that isn't preachy, even with the title being Gretel and Hansel instead of Hansel and Gretel, I would say check this out. If you're wary about it, if you're not really a big fan of the idea that they changed the names around to make it seem like it'd be more for a female demographic, don't worry, it's not like that.
No, I
was worried about that. No, wait. I thought it was going to be like that, but it wasn't.
They already know that she's older, though, right?
Well, Gretel's always older in the stories.
See, I didn't know that.
I think, no, I'm not sure.
So that when I saw it, I immediately thought, go ahead, never mind.
There's the spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now we're getting into the spoilers. Skip to this time code, and if I forget to put it in, I will put it in the title. And, yeah, so let's get into spoilers. Do you want to say something?
I just thought that as soon as I saw that she was that much older than him, I realized that that's why they put her name first.
Why, because she was older?
Uh-huh. That should be like the older sister than the younger brother.
I think they put it in there because it's more of her story. There definitely was more of her story.
True.
And back to what I was going to say earlier, they incorporated brooms into this movie. It wasn't really a broom, it was a stick.
Yeah.
But you could tell, like, they wanted to have her go fly on it, but then they realized it wouldn't really flow or fit nicely in the movie. But she can control sticks and she can control trees and the nature itself, and I really liked the ending.
I did too. But
I was happy.
They could have done a few things to add a few twists before it ended.
I don't think there needed to be any.
Twist.
No.
It's like they saw it. I just feel like a little bit more would have been good. Just a little.
Well,
not
so
too much.
all the plot lines were tied up, and if you add a twist, it could have ruined everything.
Or at least a struggle.
I think she should have, like she says that she trusts herself now, and then she says, what did she say first?
I don't remember. I'm just saying when she's still at the table before the witch dies. I feel like the witch should have
been more powerful.
Yeah,
but she was also older.
There was a bit of a struggle with it. Like
there wasn't any struggle when they were when she was trying to defeat her. It was like she threw the broom at her, and she's like, "Oh, what a world!" Or the stick, and then she gets her head ripped off.
It would have before that stick came at her. I would have liked her to duck and have it something else and be like another little thing almost like a little
battle.
A little battle. It would have been nice to have that. Then when she was looking in that cup where she found that secret door and stuff, I feel like the witch could have been in the door. You know what I mean? She could have said, "Did you find what you were looking for?" There's nothing to see there. Just something that a little closer.
Yeah, because she never.
Yeah.
I think she always knew that she knew about it too.
I do too, but it would have been nice to just add a little bit, and then maybe still not be sure if the witch knew or not, or be like, "Oh, did you find?" You're like, I don't know, something.
I like that the film was very nature related. It wasn't like it was very nature driven. There wasn't too much about like, oh, these cakes or this bakery or this oven, which was actually a unique twist on the oven too. I'll get to that in a minute. But it was more about Earth.
Yeah.
It was more about like the trees, the soil, everything that they do is even the spells they make are earthbound. It's very Wiccan like.
That's what a witch would do. Yeah.
Right, and I'm glad they incorporated that. It could have easily just been, no, we gotta get this witch in the oven, which the oven isn't really an oven. It's a huge table with flames, like a
almost like a. I don't even know
what's the oven called where you have it like a table.
Like a hibachi.
Yeah, and there's a big cage above it where I like the whole time it's behind a curtain. You don't know what's going to be behind the curtain. I figured it was going to be like a big brick oven, but it was like a hibachi oven.
I thought it was going to be a pot of boiling water.
That would be funny. And the part where she dumps all the organs and intestines on the table and then it forms all the food, that was cool. That was a good effect.
That was pretty good, especially when the intestines like inched over.
Yeah. Like, oh. It's PG-13. They didn't push the envelope, but it was a pretty gross part.
No, it was. But it wasn't terrible. There wasn't a lot of terrible stuff going on.
Yeah. I definitely think that the witch. Okay, let me get into the part that most people are probably going to be worried about this movie, the feminism part, which really isn't even in the movie. There's subtle hints throughout the movie that make you think it's going to go that way. There's parts where she says the men don't understand what we women, or what the woman thinks, or whatever.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, and you think, oh boy, Gretel's going to kill her brother and take her place alongside the witch, or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't. And they actually make it a really happy ending for everyone.
Well, I was disappointed that she didn't have Hansel stay with him a little bit longer.
I think
kind of rude.
That's kind of rude to make me leave. I think that it was necessary. Like she said, there's one story they shared together that's now in two. Mm-hmm. And he has to go off and do his own thing. Like their brother and sister. I know, especially back then, the brother and sister, they wouldn't stay in the home with their parents for long. They're probably like 15 or 16, and they're supposed to leave. Have to have jobs when they're like.
A bit too young though.
Well, they're supposed to have like jobs when they're 5 to 8 or whatever.
Nah.
Yeah, they were
just farm stuff.
Yeah, farm stuff. That's what I mean. Not like paying high paying jobs or anything. Like working chores around the house. I think she wanted him to experience what she couldn't provide.
True.
You know, like she wanted him to go do what he wanted to do, not try to be like, I want to follow Gretel all around and do what she does. Like, he can't. He's not a warlock. And they never flat out spell that this is a witch.
Right.
like, they never say, "Oh my God, she's a witch. I never realized that. Oh my God." They have these things what a witch would do, but it's very earth related, like I said. What was your favorite part about the magic in this film?
The oil that they make for their hands.
Why?
I just thought it was weird.
Yeah, I like the part where she's at the tree and she touches it, then she turns back and it's leading over towards her.
Yeah, I did
that was really cool, and she was all happy about it. I'm like, that's nice. I mean, don't you ever wish you could, like, I used to...
that she has the power within herself.
Yeah, I wish that when I was a kid, I wish I could talk to trees, and I tried to. Wouldn't quite work. But I bet a lot of people are like that. Like, oh, these trees are here, they're surrounding me, they're keeping me safe, and I wish I could do something for them. In return, especially when you're a kid, you would think that. And so just to have that in the film was like, not nostalgic, but just very pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And I really liked that the film ended the way it did, with all the kids that she had killed going off into heaven. That was nice. I like that.
Having closure.
Yeah, see, that's what I was talking about. The plot lines set up are closed. Mm-hmm. The part with the hunter in the beginning, she learns a lesson from him in the end, and she basically kind of tweaks and repeats what he says to herself. She really tries to push the magic into the right way, not go to the dark side of the magic. Mm-hmm. And her brother is off on his own journey, which she tells the horse to bring him somewhere, and the whole movie she was telling him, we can't go back there, there's nothing for us. Mm-hmm. But okay,
maybe he needed to go back to find that out for himself.
Find closure. But she sent him with something, the little bag of gold.
Oh yeah.
So he had something, or bag of trinkets or whatever. They were probably worth something, so he would have something to live off of. Which was smart. I mean, I've seen movies where they send off the person to go, or the kid to go live on their own, and they give him nothing, and they're like, you can fend for yourself. Like, no, this kid would need his money to make it in this world. Even back then, if you had nothing, you could provide services or trade, but you wouldn't necessarily get that far. She wanted him to get far. Mm-hmm. So I think this was a good movie. I give it a 3 out of 5. Not because I think it's just a little bit above decent, but because I don't feel a higher rating is quite necessary. It's not a movie you should go rush out to go see, but it is one that I think you should watch regardless if it's in theaters or not, because it proves that not all Hollywood movies are trying to push a feminist style in the direction that you think. Like, there are some, like the Charlie's Angels remake or the Black Christmas remake. But this was a nice change. It was kind of like Underwater. Underwater had Kristen Stewart, and she's like a full-on feminist. But it didn't incorporate any of that. So you can have these kind of characters or these kind of stories and tweak them, but not really push that angle. So I think it worked in this case. Anything else you want to say about Gretel and Hansel?
Good.
Alright. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I am Brian Gatto, the horror show host. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. Even $1 a month will help keep this channel going on strong, and I'd greatly appreciate it. Also hit that notification bell, and as always,
subscribe.
There you go.